गुड मॉर्निंग Salesforce और अप्रूवल प्रोसेस के कुछ इंटरव्यू क्वेश्चन देखते हैं। तो स्टार्ट करते हैं क्वेश्चंस। व्हाट इज वर्कफ्लो? Workflow work based on the certain criteria. By using the workflow, we can automate the business process like the emails, alert, task, and files update. Next question: what are the different kinds of evaluations criteria? Event, create, create, created, created, and every times it is a edited, created, and any times it is a edited to the sub subsequently meet the criteria. Next question: in which object workflow are the stored workflow? Next question: what is the difference between the created and every times edited to meet of criteria and created and edited to the subsequently meet the criteria? If we select the create and every times edited to the meet the criteria when you are the we create a records or edit to records. If the criteria of the workflow rules meet, then it will be triggers every times. If we select the create and edited to the subsequently and meet the criteria, will creating the records criteria meet to, so that we fire and we will editing the records again criteria meet the workflow and want to fire the meeting on the criteria to meeting the criteria. Will creating the records criteria does not the meet, so workflow want to fire and will editing the records workflow criteria meet, then workflow will fire not meeting the criteria to meeting the criteria. Calculations provides state of the records should be not meeting criteria and the current state of the records should be the meeting the criteria, then only if current state workflow will fires. Next question: what are the types of the rules and criteria? Criteria meet field operator value if there are multiple criteria is then in filters criteria. We can give conditions like 1, 2, and 3 feeds to the feeds. Compressions is not the possible. We cannot fetch the provided state information of the feeds. Formula evaluations, we cannot write to formulas with this cannot do with field of field the compression, and we can the fetch provide the state value of the records. Next questions: what is the immediate workflow actions? The action which will be the performed immediately after the records criteria meet. What is the time dependent workflow actions? The action which will be the perform in the futures based on the any of the date fields. To create times dependent workflow actions, we should be create one time triggers. In time triggers, we cannot give the either day of hours with the maximum of 99 value, and we can select either before and after. Next question: for the which event we cannot the create time the dependent workflow and actions create and every times edited and made to the criteria. Next questions: what are the different kinds of the workflow actions? New feeds updated, we cannot the updated feeds of the same object or the feeds of the parents object, which are the master sites, master details relationship. But only for master details parents object we can update the feeds, and for the lookup we cannot update. New emails alert, we can send emails if the criteria meet. New task, we cannot create new task. New outbound message, we cannot make a call out. Next question: what are the types of the email template? Text, HTML, custom HTML, and Visual Force page. Next question: how can you monitor futures action of the time based the workflow? Setup, annotation setup, monitoring, time based workflow. Next questions: since there are two workflow rules on the same objects say normally workflow first and workflow second. If workflow first file, then our fields will be updated on the same object. If the fields updated and the do of workflow 2 criteria meet the, then what will be happen? Workflow 2 will be not fire or not. If want to fire to the fire workflow 2, we should be enable evaluate workflow risk checkbox of the fields updated which is there in the workflow 1. Next questions. What is the resource workflow rules? How to avoid resource workflow rules? When you are enables to renew the workflow rules, the fields change the checkbox in the fields update of workflow rules. Do to these fields update whether the workflow rules on the same object will be the fire if the entry criteria of this of those workflow rules and certified. In case in the other the workflow rules also, if we enables to renewal workflow rules and after the fields change checks off in the fields updated receivable and workflow rules will become in some the sensitive. We cannot take the step to avoid the reservations workflow rules. For the workflow evaluation criteria, if you the choose the criteria and any times it edited and subsequently mean criteria option, we cannot avoid the requires workflow rules. If you don't enable re-evaluate workflow rules after fields change the checkbox in the fields update in the workflow rules, we cannot avoid. Next question, what is the upload process? If the criteria of the records meet, then by the clicking on the submit for the approval buttons, user cannot be submit the records for the approval. Note the approval, the history and related list should be displayed one of the records details page. Next question, since after the activating the approval the process, I want to the add or more stage. It is a possible. It is not possible to add one of the more step deactivated the approval the process and the clone that deactivated and approval the process and add to the new step. Next questions. What is the workflow? Salesforce workflow is a business logic that is evaluate records as the are created updated in the object apply automated process like the assign task, image, speeds, and update and outbound message sending. Next question: which object workflow and are stored workflow? Next question: different workflow the compounds available in the Salesforce. Salesforce.com is a workflow consider 5 compounds. They are workflow roles, workflow task, workflow image alert, workflow fields update, workflow outbound message. Next questions. Different evaluation the factor of the workflow created and created every times it is edited. Create is every times is edited and meet the subsequently criteria. Next questions. What are the different workflow actions available in the Salesforce? Task, email alert, feeds, update, and outbound message. Next questions. What is the workflow task? Workflow task is Salesforce are used to the assign task and user using the task we can also specify the subject, status, priority, and due date of the task. Tasks are the workflow and approval the action that are the triggers by the workflow rules or the approval the process. Next question, what is the workflow alert? Image alert is one of the action used in the workflow and the approval. They are used and generated emails templated by the workflow rules and approval the process and send of the destination recipient. We cannot send workflow email alert to user the contact having the and value email address. Next questions. What is the workflow fields update? Fields update in the workflow and approve the process specific and the fields that we want to the updated and investing in the new value for it depending on the fields type of we cannot choose the following option. They are the applied to the specific value, make the value blank and calculate value based on the formula you create. Next question, what is the difference between the created and every times edited to the meet the criteria and created in edited subsequently meet the criteria. If you want select the create and every time edited to meet and criteria whenever the we create records or ID records if the criteria of the workflow rules and meet the will be the triggers every times if we want select create and edited subsequently meet the criteria. We'll be creating of the records and meet of the work. So that is workflow will be fire and will be editing and records again the meets workflow 1 to 5 meeting and criteria meeting the criteria. Meet the workflow will be not meeting criteria meeting the criteria. Cancellations provides the state of the record should be the not meeting the criteria and the current state of the record should be the meeting the criteria, then only current state workflow will fire. Next questions. What are the type of the rules criteria? Criteria meet the fields operator value. If there multiply criteria, then you filter the criteria. We can give the conditions like 1, 2, and 3 fields fit the combinations is not possible. We cannot the fields and provide the state information of the fields. Formula evaluate and we can write the formulas with this can be do fields to the fields and compression. We cannot the fetch and price state value of the records. Next, what is the time dependence workflow? Execute times sensitive actions before and after any times of the records. Perform series of actions as a various option in times. Use the workflow queues and manage all of the pending actions. Use times dependence workflow to send the image reminder to the account then if the high value opportunity is still upon 10 days before the close date. Notify the fee says in the high if high value of the opportunity close date is a fast approaching and it has not been closed for activity notify support free if and the open case with the platinum support is SLA has not been the workflow and period of the times and take action before the case and escalate. Next questions. Time dependent workflow considerations maximum 10 time of the triggers per rules, maximum of the 14 actions, 10 plus 4 type of it per time of triggers and 18 actions per workflow rules. Workflow different default users must be set of the before creating and time based the rules. Precautions limited to the hours of the day cannot be converted the leads with of the times dependent action in the workflow is time triggers cannot be added or removed from the activated workflow rules not possible to the create and time dependent actions associated to the rules with of the triggers type of the every times the records is created of the updated. Next questions. Limitation of the times dependent workflow. When the defining times dependent workflow in Salesforce, we have to the use standard and custom date and the date and times fields defined of the object. For the object, we have to specify times using day and users. Also add the action to the exiting time triggers. Next question, in which of the criteria of the workflow times dependent workflow actions and cannot be created on the every times it is edited and because unnecessarily that there will be lot of the requesting pending in the time based workflow queues and whenever records it is edited. Next, when you cannot be add to time dependent action in the workflow rules or time dependent action in the workflow rules cannot be added when the following action take the place of when workflow rules in the active when workflow rules and deactivated and has pending action in the quiz when the workflow rules and criteria of the record set to the created and every times it is edited when the workflow rules included in the package. Next questions. How can you monitor future action of the time-based workflow setup, administration setup, and monitoring time-based workflow? Next question, we have to the time and time based the workflow, and there is a there is action schedule to the be executed. If we deactivated the workflow, schedules action will be removed from the queue or the not. Even after deactivating in the workflow, its action will be the not be removed. It is a still active in the quiz and will be executed on the scheduled times. Next questions. We have time based workflow and there is an action schedule to be executed can be the deleted that workflow. It is not possible to delete the workflow when the workflow is having any pending times and dependent actions. Next question, how to clear the time-based workflow actions page. We can clear the time-based workflow action page into way to the R. Make the criteria first, removing the schedules action from the page. Next questions, will creating a workflow on the task, what different the observe on the available actions. Will creating workflow on task, we cannot find send the email actions. Next question, suppose of the records meet the workflow criteria for the times based workflow actions. The action goes into in case later or before the time based of said action is the triggers if the times records get the modify and the criteria previously meet in the change and now if it does not meet to the workflow criteria, what happen to the time-based action the place in the peak. In this case, and pending action in the time of the based workflow will be executed and schedule times before and tracking any of actions. It will check the conditions that was uh, that was given in the workflow rules and criteria and if condition does not the meet and then no action will be the taken and simply removed from the piece. Next question, tell us the things that we cannot do in the workflow and do not in the triggers. Time dependent workflow. Next questions, workflow as a process builders. Process builders cannot be updated any fields on any related records where the workflow can be only updated some fields on the parents records of the master details relationship. Process builder can be perform and DML operation, but workflow cannot. Next question, as we know that in the time based work, we cannot take an action based on the hour per day or day. And what if I have to take off actions after the 5 minutes of the records is created? Created. This is not possible to directly, but we cannot use to here the technology. Create the formula and feeds on an object which will be calculated times and after 5 minutes and of the created dates. Formula will be now in 0.00.00435 and then close the formula feeds in the time based workflow with the 0 hours. Next questions. Difference between the triggers and workflow. A workflow is automated process that fire and action based evaluations criteria and rules criteria. We can access workflow access to the object. DML operation are not supported in the workflow. We cannot query from the database. Workflow always fire the after every after event of the records. Triggers. Triggers is a piece of the course that execute before and after event of the records. We cannot access triggers, the object and relative to that object. Next question for this same sensor explain in the above questions that happen when when we deactivate on the modify that is a criteria of the workflow to the different criteria when you whether the fields will be updated not the scheduled date. Yes, I will the triggers in this scheduled date. Next questions. Since there are two workflow rules on of the same object, they normally workflow first and workflow second. We workflow first, fire the fields will be the updated on the same object if the fields are updated and do to this workflow to criteria meet the then what will happen workflow 2 and will be fire or not. If want fire it to fire to workflow to we should enable re-evaluate workflow rules and checkbox of the fields updated which in the there is no workflow first. Next question: what is the request and workflow rules and how to the avoid requests and workflow the rules? When we work, we can enable to evaluate and workflow rules after the fields and change checkbox in the fields, update and workflow rules. Do to these fields update and other workflow rules one of the same object will be the fire if the entry criteria on those workflow rules and certified. And in case of the other workflow rules and also we enable if we enables we renewables workflow rules after fields change checkbox in the fields updated resource and workflow rules will become in some scenario. We cannot take this two step to the avoid and resolve workflow rules for the workflow evaluations criteria. If you the choose created and any times it is edited subsequently with the criteria option we can the avoid to is request workflow rules. If you don't have enables to regulate workflow rules after fields and change checkbox in the fields and updated of the workflow rules are uh, rules we can avoid. Next questions: workflow already exist on the object. Now user want to add two times dependent workflow action. It is a but not able to get an option go to the select and time the dependent action the work what might to issue when the add times triggers and button is unavailable. The evaluations criteria is set of the evaluate the rules when the records is created and every times is edited. The rules is activated. The rules is a deactivated but is pending actions is in the workflow is. Next questions: what are the types of the image template? HTML, custom HTML, and Visual Force Page. Next question: difference between the process builders and triggers. Process builders process builders cannot be handled before the DML it execute after and records has been created or the updated. Next, process builder cannot be handled delete and undelete DML. Next, and errors reported in process builders is more generic, which make it default to the find and the original of the errors. Next, it is a all or none in case of the process builders failures. Next, if it cannot update an unrelated records, you have to use two process builders in conjunctions with the flow and created a custom records sharings. Next, process builder does not support and group members object. The flow support the group members object. Next, cannot we create the image template that pull info from the multiple records and the object combined the solely using the process builders. Next, triggers. Apex triggers cannot be handled both before and after DML operation, whereas Apex triggers cannot be handled all DML operations. With Apex triggers expect expectations handling cannot be the made more the specific. With Apex triggers, portal success is possible. With Apex triggers, you cannot update related records. Next, share records with the more complex criteria than sharing the rules and permit. Next, add remove users in the charters group and the public groups. Next, create an image template that pulls info from the multiple records and object combined with user for special. Next questions. What are different between the custom setting and custom object? Custom setting are the SQL inexpensive. We cannot write the triggers in custom setting fields of the which we can the create and custom setting restrict like the pick list lookup then formula fields cannot be the created in custom settings. No page layout records type validation rules workflow rules and cannot be used to the custom settings. Custom object is SQL expensive. We cannot have triggers on custom object. No restriction on the creation of the fields can be used on the custom object. Next questions: what are the difference between the workflow and the approval process? They key difference between the workflow and approval process are believe workflow rules consist of the single step and single the actions where the approval process has multiple steps and the different actions, workflow rules and triggers automatically and rules when triggers are not possible not visible to the users approve then a process on of the other side contain multiple set as each requirement requiring specific the I approve the or reject user the actions by the specified approval. Next questions. What is the daily emails alert limit for standard Salesforce license for the workflow and approval process? And what is the overall daily organization limit? Daily emails alert for the approval process and workflow are 1000 per standard Salesforce license. Overall daily organization limit for the workflow and approval process email alert is 2 lakh 2 millions. 2 millions. And next question, how many ways to the fields cannot be made and mandatory or fields cannot be made and mandatory in 4 ways. Wheel creating and fields we cannot be make is a mandatory using page layout using the triggers validations rules. Next questions. What are the triggers best practice? A triggers best practice include the things avoid the DML SQL triggers. How are the triggers per object? How a helper class to hold the logic of the triggers. Avoid the derivations. Next question: what are the difference between the 15-digit and ID and 18-digit ID? Difference between the 15-digit ID and 18-digit ID is 15-digit ID is a case incentive and 18-digit ID is a case incentive. Last three characters of the 18 digits 18-digit ID represent the check sum of the capitalizing of the first 15 digit. Next questions: what are the different license available in the Salesforce and explain them. Below is the list of the license available in Salesforce. Salesforce full access to the Salesforce CRM and app exchange. Salesforce platform access only the custom app, but not the standard CRM. Post.com on the app designing to the access only one custom app in the unlimited number of the tabs. Post.com knowledge subscriptions grant users access to the Force.com Lite app is the Force.com enterprise app, but not those, but not no CRM functionality. Knowledge only the users and designing for users who only the need to access to the Salesforce Now app. And charters free user has access to charters which include the fields, profiles, and fields groups. Charters external designing the allow to customer charters group and customer the are user outside of the company image domains. Next, charters only the user has access groups and fields, people's profiles and profiles and files along with the access to the view, account and contacts, modify, custom object and the CRM content ideas are the layers. Next, what is the fractions workbench in Salesforce? Fractions workbench in the Salesforce features for the implementation for the language. Language is multiple language is not just the data, but also the all your the configuration and the customization that you improve as a part of the implementations. Next question: what is the workflow in Salesforce? Uh, Workbench, sorry, what is a workbench in Salesforce? Workbench is a powerful web-based suite of the tools designing of the animation and the developer to the interact with Salesforce.com's organization view the Force.com's API. Workbench include of robust support for the Force.com's partner bulk REST streaming metadata and Apex API that is allow you to the user and describe the query many update and migrate the data and the metadata in Salesforce.com's and organization the directly in the web browser with the simple and intuitive user interface. Next questions: what is the data loaders and how to many we can the data loaders? Data loaders is a client application user bulk input and export data. Data loaders can be user and two-way user interface and command lines. Next questions: how many records we can insert using the data loaders? We can the insert of up to 5 million records using the data loaders. What are the objects supported by the data loaders? Data loaders support all objects, including the custom object. Next questions: how often do Salesforce update the Salesforce? The background Salesforce is topically updated in tricks. Here, the spring, winter, and the summer software update are the trip parents to the user space and only require to small maintenance the windows over the weekend. Next questions: I can have a custom dependent within the Salesforce platform. Yes, there are the number of the different program solutions available depending on one of the types of the development requirement. There is the first.com development environment and topically Apex and Java language that can be used. Next question: I can integrated my image from the Outlook or other the mail solutions. Is there are the number of the standard of the self tools that are image and contact information to be the synchronized with data in the Salesforce.coms. Next questions: how easy is how easy it to customize the environment to the reflect way to the my business work. It is a relative easy to the configure the look of the fields and add new the fields load of your the company logo and change page and layout. You should be always have to CRM strategy before your start and a customer consider the impact of the changes on your the data. If you don't have any connections on your connections team or the expert will happily help you. Next questions: how much space do I got the Salesforce? I customer receive the default minimum storage amount of 1 GB of data and 1 GB of files. Group edition has a 1 GB data and 1 GB files. Storage shared all by users, professionals, and enterprise editions provided 20 MB of the data, 600 MB file storage per users. Unlimited editions provide the 120 MB of the data and 600 MB of file storage per users. थैंक यू फ्रेंड्स। अगर मेरा वीडियो अच्छे लगते हैं तो मेरे चैनल को लाइक और सब्सक्राइब कीजिए प्लीज प्लीज। और मिलते हैं अगले वीडियो में। तो थैंक यू सो मच, बाय बाय।